Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We're about to start the session. Please take your seats. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. May I have 1 minute of your attention, please? Today, we received very sad news from Lisbon. Our former president, Jorge Sampaio, died at 81 years old. And I invite you all to join me in 1 minute of silence. He also worked with the United Nations in several occasions. So let's keep 1 minute silence for Jorge Sampaio. Okay, thank you very much. So let's start working, okay?
Movement defines us.
Standing still is not an option.
We must come together again under shared values.
With sustainability as a guiding principle.
We are the innovators, the game changers.
We are travelers. We celebrate diversity and champion solidarity.
Rowing back for people and planet.
Unlocking opportunities for millions.
And leaving nobody behind.
The world is waiting. We will restart tourism.
Wise men always say that some things are not meant to pair. Are we supposed to believe in that? What if we look at them with different eyes? The eyes that penetrate deep into things. Do you ever gaze at the shape of a wave? And at the shape of a grape? They are both waiting for us to shape them into something we love. Flavors combined with smells, sensations, and emotions. We merge ourselves in this endless harmony, raw and beautiful. Other times it's just a matter of perspective. Who would guess an art piece and a wine cellar would pair? It's all about the inspiration to create something beautiful and unique. Forms and lines decanted by the hands of their masters. They elevate each other. We need to decompose things to understand them perfectly. Like a great band or a bottle of fine wine. It's a combination of layers, notes, and varieties that form a wonderful symphony. A special melody that pops up to be tasted in the first drop. And we listen. It's like a complex recipe full of mystery. Let's call it chemistry. So guess what? Wise men sometimes are wrong. Wine pairs with Portugal.
So again, good morning. Welcome back to the 5th UNWTO Global Conference on the Wine Tourism, on the theme, Wine Tourism as a Driver and for Rural Development. For those who are joining us online for the first time, a very warm welcome to Portugal. You have to come to Portugal in person. Talking about rural development, we could not start with a better theme than gastronomy. I like it very much, as you know. As I told you yesterday, gastronomy is one of my passions, and it's impossible for me to separate the two. So the thing is, how can wine tourism bring out the best of local gastronomy and products? How can it value the territory and add value to the experience? For that, I will invite to join me on stage my very good friend to moderate this discussion, Nuno Botelho, President of Porto Trade Association and founder of Essência do Vinho. Nuno, the stage is yours and your guests. I assume you have several. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. This panel will be in Portuguese, so those who want translation, you have the headsets.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone. As Paulo said, and whom I salute, and also salute the organization, the Tourism of Portugal, whom I thank for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure, and all reasons are good to come to Alentejo, but this is a special reason. As Paulo said, I will speak in Portuguese, as I was given that possibility, as there is a translation, and my mother tongue is this, and I'm in Portugal, and I think the authenticity has much to do with the topic of our conference, that is wine and gastronomy have everything to do with authenticity. And from that point of view, I would say that we should have the possibility today, by speaking Portuguese, to pay homage to our president of Republic that died today, who was someone who loved the Portuguese language and treated it well, and also it's a way to pay homage to that Portuguese that died today. So I would call to the stage, without further ado, first Amaya Lopez de Heredia to join us at the stage, and Mauro Carbone and Chief Diogo Rocha. I would start by saying that regarding Mauro Carbono, I would like to ask you to treat him very well, because from what I heard, next year is going to be our host in this conference, so he has to be very well treated. We have to treat him with a lot of respect and tenderness, so he will can retribute that respect and tenderness at the reception of Italy. He's not understanding what I'm saying, but anyway, I think that we all have to treat Mauro very well. Otherwise, next year in Italy, he can take his revenge and not treat us very well. So we will treat him with a lot of love and kindness. So this topic, I would call your attention to the title of this conference, Wine Tourism, a Driver for Rural Development. So this is very important. That is, to what extent wine tourism develop tourism, but also the agriculture and all related things. And from that point of view, I would talk to Amaya. So I will address the ladies first, and will ask her to what extent does she understand the scientific knowledge and the learning. Are they important to leverage, to add value, not only to the product, in this case to gastronomy, to rural product that comes out from agriculture, and to be able to add value to that product, but also to leverage and to add value to professions which were not so well treated and not dignified, and to what extent this project, this work contributed, and Amaya knows very well what she's talking about, contributed to leverage wine tourism in Spain, in that area. So I think it's fundamental that wine tourism, it's a fundamental access of knowledge and the cultural tourism, the territory, and also to know the history of our country. So to what extent the scientific knowledge applied to these issues are important and can be applied here. So I would like to ask you this first, and then I would invite also the other speakers also to intervene and to ask questions, to interrupt whenever they feel like, in a very Latin way. Good morning. Thank you to the organization to invite me again to be at this panel to give this new contribution. That is that for 4 years I designed and managed our project, gastronomic project in San Sebastian in the Basque Country, and there were many hours. Now I'm a professor, I'm invited professor, and I spent a lot of hours with the students of gastronomy in many areas, and dealing with the required skills to develop their activity in the gastronomic professions, which is there's a wide range of specialities. This was something that coming into 2013, so the initiative I'm going to talk about came out from the Basque cooks, of the new Basque cooks from the 70s, and which common objective was to add value to our gastronomy and export it to the world besides the ovens, the cookers. They have a lot of interest that there would be a gastronomic science university that would revalue these professions with all these hours, with specialists, professionals, colleagues that are here to participate in the master classes. And if we are agreed, something is that gastronomy went beyond the table scope and socialized, democratized, became democratic, and used the ecosystem and as a chain of activities that are linked to gastronomy. And so multiplied professions, new elements came up coming from the chefs and the students that participated in the training, contribute with the discovery of new scopes around the gastronomy axis, transforming experiences of gastronomy, degustation classes, as well as tasting, and also the production of the food, the scientific scope regarding with the food, and it requires an holistic vision about this, and seen as a 360 degrees vision. And this topic developed very much, and together with some thematic issues like the wine tourism is not out of what I'm talking about. There were a lot of professionals that came up regarding the wine tourism. Is something that is quite important, and I would like to launch for your reflection. It was published in a sign of the control denomination products. There's a lot of things. There are 80 persons that work directly in the direct involvement, which 5 or 10 years ago didn't exist. But so there were new opportunities to train, to endow them with new skills, and the capture of new talents, and to work in very open environments with learning methodologies like hands on the job or learning by doing. In the wine world is lacking great reference. There is, but in the schools, but we still have a lot of margin to work on this area. Very dynamic systems, very complex, in which our professionals and the future professionals might somehow guide this part of gastronomy and wine that becomes more interesting. And also the analysis of the wine is also present. So it's also, the wine is part of gastronomy, exactly. So when I talk with you, to what extent do you talk about knowledge? Now talking about another area, which is, in my belief, is also fundamental to drive, to treat better and diffuse what is tourism, what are the territories, what is done at each territory, which are the events. You are an expert in that area. Piedmont, Italy, you're known for organizing some of the most emblematic events in Italy, both about the wine and other products. Would you like to speak a bit about that experience, and how through events is it possible to divulge and communicate the culture of the territories, what the territories have to offer, what they have to tell us stories about the territories, sometimes very old, and the present stories to show the modernity of the territories through the old history. Would you like to talk to us a bit about that, please?
It's a very good question, I think, because we work in a very particular sector of tourism. Because we have in our region, in Langemont-Ferrato Roero, in Piemonte, many people from all over the world. We had the people, and we hope that we will have again in the next months and in the next years, from many countries. They come to us for food and wine. But it's very strange because they can have our wines everywhere. 85% of our top-level wines, Barolo, Barbaresco, Asti Spumante, and now also Barbera, that are very typical of our region, they are exported. They are tasted all over the world. So why they come to us to taste the same wines that they have in their city?
Yes.
And also for the food, because we have many people from USA, they come to us. But if you live in New York and you want to have a very good Italian pasta, you don't need to have 7,000 kilometers of fly to come to us. It's the same. So we need to have people very skilled, as she said just before, because we need to do a miracle. We need to give the same food and the same wine, but not the same atmosphere, not the same emotions. So we need very good people to work in all the parts, for the wines, for the wine experience, for the visit to the wine cellar. Now we are working with the harvest for tourists, but also for food, with the restaurants, of course, traditional or of innovation, new restaurants or very tradition style. But I think that the events are good if they are built just for this reason. To have a good experience.
Desculpa interromper. They must have.
I'm sorry to.
Tem que ter qualidade.
Speaking in English, is asking. They must have quality.
They have a good goal, a good project. Okay. We always say to the organizers, first question, which is your goal? You want to promote your wine? You want to promote your food? You want to build a product for tourists? It's not the same, because wine has a supply chain very different from the tourist ones. The buyers of wines are very different from the buyers of tourists. The journalists, the media, the influencer have not the same way to talk about the events and the products. So you need to have a very good goal in your mind, and you have to project the event about it. It's very difficult in our experience. Sure, all around the world it's not like this, but in our experience we know that it's not so easy. And the success of the events is very connected to good ideas and good goal to work about.
Yes. And about events, a propósito de eventos.
Regarding events, we always have the tendency to think regarding events. We always have the tendency to think that any event under any circumstance is justified to join in Portugal and gather in Portugal and Italy. So any reason is good to organize a gastronomic event, but not always all events and all gastronomic and wine events are positive for tourism and leave a good image. That's a bit that you are saying in a very diplomatic way, I think.
Tourism, because the tourism for the sea, if you are in Montserrat, you don't have an experience with the sea, okay?
Okay.
But if you go everywhere, you eat and you drink,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
So it's not so easy to have a border between you eat and drink because you have an experience in a place, and so of course you eat and drink, you have food and wine, or you have an experience just about food and wine, okay? The event is the same, okay? You build an event for food and wine people, for people that travel for food and wine, or you are in a good destination and so you can have also a food and wine experience, of course. Okay? It's a problem of our tourism, we know. So I think that a good event for food and wine is all built for people that are wine lover, food lover, okay? If you have a mix, it's not so easy to have the goal.
Obrigado. Chef Diogo Rocha.
Thank you. Chef Rocha, we are talking about Mesa de Lemos, a restaurant located in Viseu, in the center of Portugal. What is the importance and what is the difficulty of building a brand such as Mesa de Lemos, such as a restaurant with the quality of Mesa de Lemos? What is the difficulty? What is the challenge? And how to attract, how to work as a magnet to the tourists that visit us? Would you like to speak a bit about that? Before everything, good morning to everyone, and also salute my co-panelists. And in this case, it's one of the main responsible for what has evolved in wine tourism. I'm going to be nice and put us in the top 3. And for me, it's also I feel very honored to be invited by the tourism of Portugal. And it's also, it proves that chefs and cooks already have a word to say. And again, the tourism of Portugal is the guilty part due to the investment that is done. So I know what I'm talking about, the focus on training. And I think it's normal that we say there's a lot of work to do. There will be always a lot of work to be done. And if there were not, we didn't made any mark in our lifetime if we didn't have anything to work for. So regarding Mesa de Lemos and all this concern or attempt to make a project such as Mesa de Lemos outside a large city, traditional, associated to other kind of gastronomy, other kind of concepts, but historically known as good food, from what we eat, and also because I think it's the difference many times when we travel and talk about our country, using your expression, we are in Portugal and we talk Portuguese because we have that opportunity, and we also talk about Portugal because we are giving that opportunity, and we are able to understand that such a small country, we are able culturally at the level of attitudes, we have some differences. And Viseu, I call it a fake inland, but we are not so close to the sea. But anyway, we have some geographic difficulties in the access. But being inland, normally for us is still expected that the project is slightly different from what we find. I think that's an advantage among others, and not a disadvantage, because when we talked, and from what I understood, when we are going to a place, I can go to Piedmont to drink a barolo. And this seems extraordinary because we are talking about one of the most well-known wines of the world. And when we opened the Mesa de Lemos, we are probably, and I say probably, one of the few restaurants with a Michelin star and with this highlight that use our own produced wines, because we are in the middle of a winery and we are looking at that, and it makes sense this to have this contact, this regarding the rural development, looking around us, what happens. The wine tourism is more than wine and tourism. I think it's also pottery, it's also sausages, everything that we put on the table, everything that we can aggregate from all the handicraft artisans that we are contaminating with our energy. And we have a restaurant where it is possible to make a whole degustation menu, like in Alba, in the restaurant Piazza dell'Uomo, with 3 Michelin stars, that we make the whole menu with Barreau, and we do that with the down wine. I think it's extraordinary. 8 years ago, this was crazy when we opened, and nowadays when you use this international references that are an inspiration, it seems that we are in the right way. And therefore, this great challenge in the beginning still exists, but I think it's our great strength and our great will. We are different due to what we are able to transmit. We spoke about the venue. I will never be able to remove Mesa de Lemos and put it in the large city, because we have histories like that. The wine tastes differently, and the food with a certain company, and that wine is going to taste completely different because we are in that environment. Regarding that you said, before everything, I would like to thank you for the words. I would add, if you allow me, the following. I think Mesa de Lemos is very well located, very well where it is, and nowadays, and 8 years ago when you opened, that was not possible. And also from that point of view, and we should honor the tourism of Portugal, because they have focused a bit more on this wine tourism, and like last year, how it focus in a very effective way in the co-production of one show, the most popular series of wine tourism. And last week it started in the United States, in Canada, and where everyone can see the best that can be produced and seen in Portugal. And this has been very successful. And projects like Mesa de Lemos and many others that are coming up in all. 8 years ago, this was not possible, but shows the authenticity of Portugal, make that we can all elevate all the value chain that Maya was talking about, the rural and the agriculture, the Portuguese ones, the labor, the wines, and the labor that is getting increasingly qualified. So we have to focus on training and knowledge, and we have to work and submit solutions. And Tourism of Portugal are working so that shortly with other partners we would present new novelties in that area of knowledge that might help to show change a bit this paradigm. And I think that this country has all to gain, and I want to underline this because it's very important, because Mauro said it very well, the history of the countries. I think that authenticity and identity is that makes the whole difference. The pasta that could be eaten in New York could be the same, but it was not the same, because that's why I cannot move Mesa de Lemos. We have had this concern that people that are in our team that are as close as possible to Mesa de Lemos physically, because I do not want someone that welcomes guests in our restaurant as the same standard that you find in New York or Paris. This is something that we are careful to have in our kitchen, and we love our differences. I love foie gras, caviar, etc., but they're not national, so I don't work with that product. There I work with beans, which is not much used, and I think that by fitting what we eat, because we eat from a local and national bubble, because I don't have the sea next to us. So, but the sea is a dozen minutes from our thing. This affection, this quality, the people to understand that our accent is like we say "sh." So all this set of the accents, the way we touch, because we are all different, and you can only see that if you go to the territory. So people travel and do the 7,000 or 10,000 kilometers to see that, and that's what we have to offer. And we should maintain that authenticity. And talking about some other aspect, and the dialogue was open to everyone. I'm not addressing this to anyone. The importance of tourism routes. Do you see that as being important? The elaboration of the routes, the systematizing of them. Here in Portugal, we saw that we were able finally, just to give you an example, they have not been well worked in Portugal, so we have to be critical to ourselves. And we see that in the Porto region, we were able to gather 4 wine regions. The green wines and some others, and the uniformization of the routes. So they don't care if it is the green wine or this. They want to visit the wine producers to taste it and see the local products and to enjoy those moments. So I would ask maybe Amaya, if you think that's important, how do you see that? I know that, Ryoka, that was a topic that concerned you at a certain time. So I would ask you, how do you see that topic, and how can you help, and if you can give us some clues about this solution? We spoke yesterday about this. We have to work at the destination, and the tourist that comes and tries to connect to the gastronomy and to know how the wine is worked does not understand about the administrative part. So we have to present the offer in a most structured way as possible. And as yesterday, we have to identify the resources that make us unique. And this is extremely important. And from that is not to analyze the gastronomy and to generate experiences that really authentic and based on the indigenous resources, besides to satiate the appetite we have. We also do that culturally, which differentiate us, and that's why we have this tourism modalities that are so successful. It's a matter of enjoying with our 5 senses all the elements that make us unique and different, and also to have a varied offer with the focus on the destination where the gastronomy and wine, the tourism are joined more and more. And I think this is very important, where the restaurant with proximity products have good practices with recognized suppliers and know what are we eating, where the products come from, the techniques, the processes. I think this is very important. And the profile of the tourist that is passionate for gastronomy or interested in gastronomy and wines looks for this kind of experience. We cannot think that visiting a wine region is like having visited all of them. we take a certain risk of harmonization of the consumption proposals of the wine and the gastronomy tourism, and we have to be different. We have to build experiences that are connected to the territories and what can be done, or a visitor that is interested to go to one destination or others. So I'm complementing something besides what the other destination is offering. So the type of experience that we have to offer the people.
It's very important that to talk with the language of social, we need always two aspects, that is rural and cultural, okay? Because there is a problem of accessibility. To go to a region, to have a food and wine experience without some way to understand why the wine is like it is and the food is like this, it's not emotional, it's not cultural. It's like if someone read for me a very good book in a language that I don't know. It's the same. So I think that the experience is very important because it permits to me to understand what I'm doing, what I'm eating, and what I'm drinking. It's not so easy to organize because there is a problem of accessibility to the place. Can I visit a winery? Can I meet a producer? But it's also a problem of storytelling, which is the best way to talk about wine and food. People is very different. We have a contact center only for wine tourism inside our tourist office, okay? We meet more or less 7,000-8,000 people every year that want to visit a wine cellar. And there are many, many different histories for them. Very stories, very different. Somebody is very expert, want to find an enologue, a scientist of the wine to understand. Somebody says, I've never been in a winery. I want to see something, okay? So we need different storytelling, different organization, different products for different people. That's very, very important. If I go to see Colosseo in Rome, I go in front of Colosseo, I go inside, and I have an emotion. Sure, I can know everything about the Roman history or nothing, but if I see Colosseo, it's wow. To have a wow experience with wine and food, I need a good storytelling for my knowledge. If I know everything about wine, I'm very different from somebody that is not like this. So we have to work to have good skills, like we said before, but also to have a culture about it. It's very difficult to organize a tourism strategy and a tourism access for wine experiences. We have to work with the producer, with the institutions, with the public and the private parts to have a good system to meet the world of the wines.
Diogo, sobre isto.
Diogo, what about this? What I do not want is that my client feels the same as the one sitting next to him. And this has to do through our sensitivity, the people that welcome us at the wineries and at the restaurants. The customization is the right way, especially the wine tourism. For me, I might be wrong, but I think the wine tourism is associated to some tourism of some quality. When I talk about quality, as a manager of a company, is something that has to do with the finance part. Someone that has more knowledge about finance, because a certain bottle might cost 100 euros, might be more willing to have some kind of experience. Because when I talk about gastronomy, I have some difficulty in talking about experience, because experience can be a lot of things, can be all of us trying to do this presentation, but standing upside down. So when you talk about experience, more than experience is the feeling. We talk about emotions, because this is what it transmitted in tourism, especially the wine tourism, that wow, that pleasure sensation. We talk about a pleasure tourism that is pleasant for us. That emotion of about what we eat and what we drink is a reaction that is born within us. So I would like to say that everything that works and helps us to go beyond, and to everything that is well done is welcome. So I think that we can even be more ambitious, because here these conversations are also provocations. I would start with two of them. One saying of the three best regions of wines is San Sebastian, Piedmont, and Douro, where I am. And why don't we do a route with this three region? Why are we just reducing ourselves to just one country and don't see it as a more global, as we see the European Union? And when we talk to markets such as Brazil, I see the difficulty of accessibility, but it's for European, because Asians, South Americans, North Americans, the accessibility is very subjective. The distance, because to sit in a plane and do 2 or 3 hours is nothing, and we are talking about this. Even these routes could perfectly work from a more global perspective, because I want the European Union to continue, because we win much more with that. And this route could be a solution, not a solution, but could be one more perspective for us to include, to evolve. And our routes work if we afterwards, as producers, somehow understand this. And myself as a cook, sometimes with the producer of cheese and the producer of tomato, the difficulty I have to explain that if I close the restaurant, imagine at 3 o'clock in the 3 o'clock or 4, if he is open till 6, he's going to win much more with that, because my customer that visited me is going to his shop to buy cheese or to buy vegetables. And this happens also with wines, because we are talking about the rural environment. We are used to talk about working time from Monday to Friday, or from ends about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And maybe with the customer, when he comes to our place, it's a weekend, and we need to have open doors. So we need to have an adaptation to that reality. Yes, clearly, the growth of a sector like this from a tourism perspective. I understand when we talk about the rural environment, we are not talking about people with less training, less education, but people that had a life that is quite similar. We in tourism, in the restaurants, we are always dealing with constant adaptations and constant provocation. They are more or less, but they have their daily routine. For example, yesterday I was doing a project for a French channel, and we are with a shepherd, and to be a shepherd is one of the profession. Is it's a 365 days from morning to night, in the afternoon to release the animals, and even this, and we have to explain the storytelling, that we have to add value. So if I explain to a person what is the work to do some cheese, that person will understand why it costs so much. But it has to do to demultiply. We have people who makes the wine. Maybe it's the same person that does the wine tourism. The speech is not the same, and maybe we have to adapt the speech to tourism made by people of tourism. Yes, I would say as a summary that in fact from the experience that I'm having in this area, that the world of wine and gastronomy and wine tourism is much done with two fundamental factors that we spoke about, Ida Mauro and all of us spoke about, is the world of relationships, is a world of relationships with the customers, with the tourists, and also with all the value chain, as Diogo was saying, the shepherd to the chef, to the cheesemaker, to the wine producer. All of us at relationship with all of us, from the man that organizes and understands that on that day a great expert on wines is coming to visit that wine producer. So the best possible enologist should be there to tell the stories and explain everything. The storytelling is a second factor and is fundamental, because to tell a story is not to tell something that is not a fact, is to tell the story of the product, the story of the territory, many times the story of the country, and the reason for that wine, the reason of a certain dish, to tell maybe Diogo cooks the vegetables and not the foie gras, because foie gras has its own place, but not there, and maybe in another moment. But the wine tourism is the understanding of all these factors, all these issues that made this possible to tell in a very clear way that wine tourism is a fundamental leverage nowadays that brings increasingly more tourists, more people that are interested to travel, to eat and to drink, and it's something that should be cared for, should deserve moments like this, and that's why we are here. And as my time is ending and Paulo Salvador is next to me, I would end this panel thanking Mauro, Amai, and Diogo, the time that they gave us. It was an honor, it was a pleasure. So I would like to thank once more to the Tourism of Portugal and everyone here, because in fact we will leave here better. Thank you.
Insights on this subject. So let's move on. As we come to close the last session of the conference, we'll look into data, numbers, information, even algorithms. And the challenge is to understand how can we use data to better perceive the impact of wine tourism. I'm sure it will be a very interesting session. So it's my pleasure to invite to moderate this session the Wine Tourism Director of Quinta de Aveleda in Portugal. Please welcome Paula Souza.
Good morning. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here and had a chance to discuss.
Paula, sorry. Maybe it's better for the sound. Take out your mask. If you don't mind.
Sorry, I forgot. We are so used to it. It's a part of us. Thanks for inviting me to be here. It's a huge challenge to discuss data management and all the everything that this topic involves. And for that, we have three gentlemen. I only see two. Carl is somewhere. The three gentlemen very qualified to address the several sides of this issue. Please join me, Giorgio, Carl, and Daniel. Carl, okay, you are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulo.
Before our conversation, I couldn't not miss to note some considerations on this subject, and I would like to talk about a recent article I've read of a consultant, Andrea Zafrino. In Portugal, we recently faced a difficult process of vaccinating the greatest number of people in the shortest time, like many countries. And here, the data management and the data analysis was crucial. This big process about vaccinating the community, the whole country, was about managing a big task force in a VUCA scenario. VUCA, for those that might not know, is the initials for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So all this difficult scenario was, we were living it, and with an answer based on data intelligence, aside with human and technical effort, we did it. So we vaccinated everyone in the shortest time. The actions taken for this vaccination process were very similar to those that we in wine tourism need to put in practice. And they are definition of strategic objectives. Of course, we all need to begin by that. Qualifying the data, integrating in the different sources of information, create new capabilities, and use a technology that could be independent, so a little bit agnostic, and bet on a multidisciplinary teamwork. And this process effectively resumes the steps that we have in wine tourism for data management. In wine tourism, in a micro vision, we luckily have some good examples of process like this, and I have no time to mention all, but at least two, even if in a different levels of complexity, I would like to mention. In first, we have Spain. Spain has an observatorium that works for about 8 years, yeah, and works well. They use a measurement system that allows them to track some KPIs, some indicators, and currently the tourism services the tourists in Spain receive invitation to participate in an online questionnaire through different sites, so flyers, social media, emails and others, and all the data of the tourists is registered in a system. And to encourage the participation of tourists in this online survey, they launched a campaign, #ILoveEnoturismo, with several benefits. And this study had, for example, in 2018, in a universe of 3 million visitors, they had about 2,200 answers with a 95% confidence level. The survey is available in all kind of locals, so museums, restaurants, hotels, everywhere, and throughout the year. So with this, they enlarge the scope of action and avoid the intervention of seasonality. The outputs, such as average group size, the transports the tourists use, level of satisfaction, average stay, accommodation they choose, or even a recommendation, possibility of recommendation, all that is worked on this questionnaire. So this is a good example how, with this simple method, we can have some data. Of course, I couldn't forget, and this is the second example, Napa Valley. As everyone knows, Napa Valley has a greater degree of maturity in data management, and it's no doubt a good practice, a good case to study. Actually, they are currently adjusting the path, and after having cemented the analysis of simple indicators, now they are looking to move from survey data to behavior data. So you can see several reports on visitors' profile, on payroll, industry payroll, economic impacts on the website. But really, this is also a good case to study So only to show that even simple or in a more complex way, we can have data with us. But now diving into in high seas, I would like to present to our first speaker, Giorgio. Giorgio Del Rosso is the head of Statistics Department at OIV, Office International La Vigne du Vin. As you might know, as you surely know, an intergovernmental organization that is focused on the wine sector. And among his responsibilities, Giorgio coordinates the OIV Statistic Group, whose main objective is to improve consistency, comparability and quality of statistical data in the wine sector. Giorgio, as more organizations turn to data analysis as a part of their growth strategy, many leaders still have some doubts. For example, how this data work in the real world, how will it work when problems appear, when critical decisions we have to make. And will companies be able to effectively use this data, or will it become a little bit more a burden than a boom? So with doubts that companies have, I would say that it's really important to reassure that everyone believes that real business problems can be solved by data analysis. And this applies, of course, to wine tourism. So Giorgio, is this belief on data analysis important for wine tourism? I mean, from your organization point of view, why do you think it's important to measure wine tourism data nowadays?
Yeah, so thank you, Paula. Good morning, everyone. So before I answer your question, let me thank UNWTO and the government of Portugal for the invitation. So as we were saying, the OIV has a statistics department, which I'm responsible for. And we mainly collect and analyze and disseminate data on what we call macro-sectorial variables. So far the focus has been on production, trade and consumption of wine and other vine-based products. However, there are topics that are raising interest and attention of many observers in the sector, including wine tourism. And we are trying to see how our organization can contribute in this matter. And we are convinced that working on data is a good first step. So, back to your question, why is it important to measure wine tourism? As we have seen in the previous panels and in the previous sessions of this beautiful conference, wine tourism is a growing, complex and dynamic phenomenon that brings benefits to the sector itself, but also to local and rural development through spillover effects. So, in order to better understand wine tourism and the contribution to the society and persuade governments and policymakers to take wine tourism seriously, the measurement of its economic importance and its direct and indirect impact on jobs, on GDP, on investments at a global scale is needed. Policymakers around the world need to base their decisions on sound data. And when good information is available, this can provide an effective tool to galvanize local action and to reinforce the performance of policies and programs, and very importantly, for driving investments. But it is not only government and public authorities that need reliable statistics. There are other agents across all the value chain, and I'm thinking about wineries, about investors, about associations, or even researchers. They all need reliable information for their analysis. So, to conclude, we live in a world of data-driven decisions, and I think that wine tourism shouldn't be an exception.
And Giorgio, what are the major issues when it comes to data in wine tourism?
Yeah, so wine tourism is a phenomenon that is quite difficult to quantify and to analyze. This complexity stems from a number of issues. So in statistics, when we talk about data quality, we mainly refer to 6 features of the data that are relevance, reliability, accuracy, completeness, timeliness, and validity. And guess what? Global wine tourism, when it comes to data, have basically none of these characteristics. So in particular, there are some main issues that are the lack of a systematic data collection, which implies limited data availability. The lack of timely data. I was trying to find some figures for an article some time ago, and the most updated data that I could find at country level were dating back to 2015, 2016, in best cases were 2017. So we clearly have a problem there. Data is also not always very accurate. I went through several papers showing that there are very large discrepancies across different methodologies of measurement. And then there is probably the most important point, that is the problem, that is the lack of data comparability. Measuring wine tourism in one country or in one specific region is not a problem. But it is collecting data for different countries with the same consistent methodology that allows to progress. And doing this for many consecutive years would lead to the creation of a database that would allow to monitor the evolution and the different growth paths of wine tourism across different countries. So all these problems lead to a lack of robust and policy relevant information. And this clearly undermines a good understanding of this phenomenon.
And which could be the solutions for those problems?
Well, I see mainly two potential solutions, and one does not exclude the other. The first is the use of new data sources, and I'm referring to big data. The current pandemic has taught us many lessons. One is that digital technologies are impacting and will impact strongly the wine sector. And this offers great opportunities for data collection. There are, in particular, three main categories of big data that could apply well to wine tourism measurement. One is data held by mobile network operators or smart mobile device data. And these offer excellent opportunities for measuring tourism flows, thanks to the tracking system. The second is payment card data, which allows to get more granular information on wine tourism expenditure. And the third one, and I think that Daniel later on will provide a very interesting use case, is data collecting by extracting information from the web.
Yeah.
This is normally a technique that is called web scraping, and this can be done on search engines like Google or websites, online travel agencies, think about booking.com or social media, and there is a wealth of information that can be obtained. For example, we can get some idea on what are the topics related to wine tourism that interest people at each moment in time, and so on and so forth. Now, we clearly see main advantages of big data, for example, having basically real-time information, a better granularity of information, more accurate data, and also a large amount of information at a relatively low cost. Of course, there is another side of the coin. Big data has their own challenges. It is, for example, difficult from a national statistical office point of view to obtain stable and continuous access to data. This kind of data are held by private companies that are oftentimes reluctant to share this with public authorities for a number of reasons. Secondly, there are privacy concerns. Mm-hmm. Many of the data that I was referring to are personal data. And so maybe data anonymization will be a key, but it is definitely a problem. And the third one is the skills. You need quite sophisticated techniques to clean and analyze such huge amount of data. So overall, I think that we are not ready yet to integrate these sources for official statistics purposes, but that is a very interesting path to follow. I think that in the medium term, we could see like a gradual integration of big data as a complementary source to more traditional sources of data. And then for the shorter term, I think that fostered international cooperation can be a key. If we want to improve the way we collect, analyze, and disseminate data on global wine tourism, a coordinated action between national and local governments, the industry, academia, NGOs and associations is needed. And this can be done more effectively, more easily, under the umbrella of international organizations. So I'm here today to launch a proposal. I think that the OIV and the UNWTO should create a focus group with experts from both organizations to provide a methodological framework for measuring wine tourism on a global scale. The main outcome of this collaboration, of this project, could be an increased availability of and increased quality of data that are comparable across countries and over time. And this way, we could be able to have reliable global data, and we could set up a system to monitor trends in wine tourism worldwide. Of course, it is a very ambitious project. But at the OIV, we are very committed on this matter, and we think that this is the way to go. And we are convinced that all the actors across the value chain would strongly benefit from such a tool.
Okay, that's good news. So WTO with OIV managing this, I think everyone here should be happy with this. And probably it's a good beginning of a long marriage. We hope so. And now we move to Northern Europe, and from Sweden we have Kale. Kale is master in business and management. Is a Swedish entrepreneur. Started in the wine industry as an importer, and today he works with both importation of wine, and later started with wine tourism as a field of business. Resulting in the idea of winetourism.com. Today, Carl is working with business development in this project. Carl, why is the global standard data important from a business perspective and on a more local level? Can you tell us something about it?
Yes. So first, thanks a lot for being here to speak a bit about wine tourism. And thanks a lot telling a bit about my background. So just brief, winetourist.com, it's a marketplace for wine tourism. We are having about 3,000 wineries today that we help online to present themselves and get visitors to the wineries. And we have a kind of global profile. Today we have wineries from over 40 countries. And we have a kind of significant growth every week, more wineries that want to join. And so why do I sit here and going to speak about data? I mean, I have been in the wine business for a while, and in wine tourism for a few years now. And when we worked as an importer, we visited a lot of wineries and noticed that a lot of wineries invested in wine tourism, and got the idea that wine tourism is an interesting field of business. And then on the winery side, we noticed that there was a kind of lack of promoting themselves online. So we arrived to okay, let's look into wine tourism as a topic. And then once we started to do this, we also tried to build a kind of business case, like what is the situation in wine tourism? Because it's pretty easy to find different kind of snapshots or small surveys and different conferences that say that, you know, wine tourism is the future, wine tourism is growing, etc., etc. And but the point is, like, if you're going to build a business case and present maybe to external investors, you actually want to see figures. What is the figures on wine tourism, and understand this part better. And then we noticed that there was a big lack of data, generally speaking, and many things Giorgio mentioned. And also, it's very difficult to compare data for different regions and different countries, how they measure spending, how they measure the number of tourists. Like, just because you go to Bordeaux, are you a wine tourist, or like what is the actual definition and so on? And we arrived somehow to a conclusion that we actually started to do some own service in order to just get an idea. Like, okay, but let's ask the wineries, what do they actually believe about the future? Because we couldn't find any data in terms of like nice diagrams to actually show that there is a growth in wine tourism. You know, it was a lot of argument and so on. And I think to answer the question, I think it's necessary for wine tourists to somehow be that you can benchmark to something. Both that countries can benchmark where they are in compared to other countries, and regions can benchmark where they are in comparison to other countries. And that we also can define a kind of like spot trends. See, is it growing? Is wine tourism growing? And also both in number of tourists, but also spending, but also the flows of the tourists. And also the idea, if you reach this point, you can actually look on the synergies global-wise, because I believe that the person that one day visits Bordeaux as a very famous destination, he will go to Rioja another day at some point. And to understand this kind of patterns in traveling flow and so on, you need to gather data together and somehow cooperate and share data. So I think it's, and then the other part I think it's important is, like, from my point of view, the main stakeholder when it comes to wine tourism is the winery itself. You have the winery itself, and then you have all these other things that will support the wineries. But for many destinations, to actually take the steps further is that you have, you know, that you convince the wineries that this is what you're going to invest in. There is a demand because of this, and then you have all these things that we saw yesterday, a lot of best practices that you're going to teach these wineries, and especially the smaller ones. But of course, they want to have some support of data as well. I mean, they want actually to see that the trend is going up. It's not only that people are saying it, and I think that is a kind of it lacks data today to actually prove that.
And in following that macro and micro vision about this subject, some days ago I've read an article about data analysis and success stories. And it mentioned some examples of companies out of the tourism sector that are deploying data analysis effectively. And I've picked 3 simple cases to talk about. And the first was Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola collects on its consumers a lot of data. And this has led the company to a more efficient operation and cuts costs and boosts the profits. Consumers share their opinions through social media, as Daniel will tell us, phone, email, etc. And it's been allowing the Coca-Cola to approach and better align the interests and demands. And of course, all this improves the brand and creates loyalty. The second case was Netflix. And a large amount of data Netflix collects among the 58 million subscribers. And they also use this to create an algorithm which has been found to be quite successful in predicting what people want to watch. So they design the program they show basing on data analysis. And the third is Amazon. Amazon, sometimes it seems that Amazon knows us better than ourselves. And all targeted messages that we receive from them are a result of that analysis. And that let them know when we make the purchases, how we rate them, and even what other consumers with similar habits are purchasing. So these are simple examples out of the tourism sector showing that a lot of companies base their daily work on data. How and when to use the data analysis is a crucial decision, but ignoring it can be fatal. And Carl, saying this, how can comprehensive data can help us on understanding direct sales, for example, and marketing, in your point of view, in a daily routine in the company?
No, but I think yesterday many mentioned that, wine tourism is a combination between the wine industry and tourism industry. And in order to see the full potential in wine tourism, you have to make sure to first, you have the tourist part, but you also have the possibility to tell your story and sell a product or market a product. And both on regional level, but also on country level, to understand the relationships between wine tourism and export, and like the more data you have within this field, the more you can direct marketing in a much better way, in order to to get more out of wine tourism as a business concept. Mm-hmm. And I think it's crucial that somehow those ideas and how to do this arrive on a kind of local level. It's very good that we sit here and on a higher level, but on the same time, you have to convince the smaller wineries to see their role in this and the opportunity, and the wine regions. And of course, we have in the world today, we have some countries and some wine regions as perfect examples that already understand this and push this and have done it for several years. But we have, but those that probably need the most support is maybe the more unknown wine regions that have to find their identity, start just on that, but then later start to somehow collect data and understand these relationships, in order to, in a more efficient way, just allocate the spending in order to do the right things.
And what data, or particular data, would you say that is most important in terms of wineries as stakeholders to know?
I think now it's because in our case we help small wineries to compete and be online. And small wineries today, you meet some wineries, they are convinced wine tourism will go up. They have a great setup and this. Then you have a lot of wineries that would be more convinced if there was spending data. Like, what is the spending? Like, how much money could I actually make out of wine tourism in my winery? And first part, of course, the spending that takes place on the winery itself. But on the long run, of course, you want to understand how much sales does this, wine tourism generate in the end. And if you can
like a spend per person, yeah,
yeah, but also in the longer run, if more and more wineries could understand, like, okay, now I have a wine tourist here, what is the value of this tourist? Mm-hmm. I know that he will spend now. I understand that he might come back to my facility another time, and he will buy my wine a number of times. If you arrive to that calculation or at least have some benchmark, but this is actually the value of a wine tourist, mm-hmm. then you can give some support to wineries to see, okay, but
we shouldn't invent too much because the wheel is there already. So a lot of countries do it. So the major KPIs are already elected. So it's not difficult to have a list of the most important ones for sure. Thank you, Cal.
Yeah, thanks.
And now back into Southern Europe and to our loving neighbor Spain, from where we used to say no good winds or good marriages come, but it was in the past. Daniel is graduated in tourism management with a master's degree in events and business tourism, and he is a destination management expert for the last 10 years. He's a senior project manager for Vivencial Value, a company based in Barcelona, specialized in innovation for tourism intelligence, mainly focused on the tourism experience and its impact throughout the reputation companies and destinations. Hold your projects closely work with local and regional leading tourism destinations that invest to improve their competitiveness and sustainability using smart data, including specific applications in gastronomy and wine tourism projects. Daniel, regarding the actual worldwide health situation, which are the common reviews for visitors or clients online?
There's just a big number of reviews that is concreted focus on the COVID situation, which is really good information that we can obtain. You will see later in the presentation, is just about 4% of the reviews that are found that we have been able to analyze that are related for the COVID. And it's true that some of them, they are a bit negative. They talk about they were not able to control the capacity of the space. They were not able to readapt the visit, the protocols, the sanitary protocols that must be followed. But also, the good point is most of the reviews were focused on the expertise that they finally found, and they noticed that they will repeat the experience.
Okay, so not only negative answers, but also positive ones.
Also positive, and the good part that we can extract from here is that the visitor that goes to the wineries within this period of time of 2019 to nowadays, that is still going on, they enjoy the visit to the wineries, they love the wine tourism, and they will repeat it in the future. So this is a good sign for our industry.
Okay. And which are the recommended first steps for you to implement a smart data management?
It's not easy. It's not easy to prioritize which are the main steps, but we should focus first on the demand, what the demand is expecting from the wineries, what is the demand expecting for the wine tourism, which are the challenges that can be found in there, so we can work for them. And also, we need to focus on the offer from the wineries. Okay. The demand is asking to receive the kind of experience, they are asking to receive this kind of satisfaction when they go to the activity, to visit the museum, to visit the winery, to taste the wine. And the wineries itself and the business has to adapt,
of course,
to these needs of the demand.
So you have to look to both sides, demand and supply.
Always, always, and the demand is so important, so you cannot just focus on what is the wine tourism or the winery is going to offer. We can adapt this because we have our space, we have our winery like this, okay, so we can offer this. But maybe the demand is not asking for this. The demand is asking for a different experience, different activities, because they have been already in a tasting, so they are looking in a tasting in the middle of the wine guard. So we have to focus on both.
Okay.
Definitely.
So it's like a round work.
Yeah.
One thing pushes the other.
You cannot separate demand and the offer.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. I'm looking for the time. We don't have too much time. I just want to add a note about data analysis. According to a Gartner report from 2019, also it's important to look to another side of the issue. While information governance is important, companies should never lose their sight on the business outcomes. Because focusing exclusively on governance, it's not enough to succeed. So we have to see the outcome of the thing. In terms of measuring the value of information, the survey they did tell that only 8% of the companies measure the financial value, the end of the thing, so the financial value of that analysis. 45% report they produce some data metrics, while 29 say they measure the impact of that. So you work and then you forget the rest. You can't do that, of course. So this is an issue that can be forgotten. So this two input-output balance is essential to reach a good return on the investment. So I think it's important to say that, because to measure the impact of the key informations at the end is also crucial. Now it's time to give voice to all participants. I know that the subject is not so romantic, because it's less romantic than other subjects already spoken here, but I believe you have some questions. Please be brief, because we don't have all time in the world, but I would like to receive from you some questions to the panel. Someone wants to add something?
We have.
Please.
What it can cost a winery to bring in one more visitor. And second, where it's going to get the visitors from. And thirdly, which demographic groups have the highest supply elasticity?
Oof. I give you some time more to brief deeply. Daniel has a presentation. Meanwhile, you think on the answer, okay?
So this is the extra time for you. So
Daniel, you can show your presentation, and then we...
okay, let me show you some data that we have extracted from Vivental Value. Okay, as Paula was introducing. I will move to the podium so it's a bit easier for me. Use the clicker as well and the presentation. Who we are, Paula already introduced us. We are a company based in Barcelona that we are focused on the innovation of the tourism intelligence that can be applied to the guest satisfaction, to the online reviews, and everything that you can extract from the actual digital environment. We have been working with these organizations, with public organizations within the last 10 years, offering our services to analyze this data, and also through our IRON, our Online Reputation Index, that has been used for all different business related with the tourism, and also including the business tourism itself. And also has been a pleasure for us to be working within leader wine tourism, gastronomic tourism, and rural tourism destinations like La Rioja, Logroño, the Basque Culinary Center, the Euskadi Basque Country, Catalonia, and also La Diputació de Barcelona. What do we understand as online reputation? For us, it's easy to understand with this competitive sequence that include the experience that the guest is having, that can be positive or can be negative, as we have seen before with Paula, that generates this reputation, this online reputation for us, that completely will affect the final decisions for this client that already had been in the winery, or for a new one. So a new client will look through the websites, the internet, which is the best option for me to enjoy the wine tourism, to enjoy the winery. So this is why it's so important to have, in terms of competitivity and sustainability as well, this sequence, because it can bring more benefits, can bring more clients to the wineries, can bring more people to enjoy the experience. And you may ask, which is the situation of the wineries' online reputation nowadays? We have been studying the wine tourism sector for the last 3 years, because of the pandemics, we have our monitor related with this wine tourism. Focus is just focus in Spain and Chile. We have been studying more than 500 vineyards, and we have an historical of more than 100,000 reviews. From here, you can extract the good reputation that the wine tourism is nowadays taking. It's above this 9%. And also you can see in both destinations, Spain and in Chile, which are the main destinations where the people that wants to enjoy the wine is moving and is looking to have their experience. After analyzing all these reviews, we have focused a bit more our study in Spain within this 3 years period, and we have 3 main conclusions, which is the first one, the satisfaction. You can see the progress has been increasing within the problem of the pandemic. The results has been quite positive during all 3 years. So it's confirmed the positive work that is done by the wineries to keep bringing more people to the wineries itself, but also to the rural destinations. And this is linked with the amount of reviews that has generated this amount and this good reputation. You see here a negative number, a negative percentage. That's true because of the pandemics from 2020 2019. The amount of review has decreased 30%, but it's nothing to compare with the amount of people that has decreased visiting the wineries itself, which is around 70, more or less. So here we can extract that it's consolidated, that the people that visit the wineries, they write the reviews. They want to show the experience they have. The third of the conclusions and linked with the reviews is the visibility. Here is a bit negative, the information we can obtain, because the good job is done just for approximately 20% of the wineries in Spain, because they receive approximately 70% of the reviews, meaning that a total of 80% of the rest of the wineries, they don't have any process in implementing the online reputation. They don't receive maybe any review, or if they receive one review, they don't have any protocol to work with. So this is a risk to create this invisibility for these small wineries. And this is a lack of management, which is our fourth conclusion. It's true that the big ones can invest to have everything under control, but the small ones, they have to understand that it's quite important to claim the business, to manage their own business, to update the information, to offer new activities, to bring the visitors to them. This is so essential to generate and have this confidence for the incoming visitors. And the fifth and the last one is the confidence that these days you can obtain from the analysis of all the online reputation. And here you can see what we were talking before with Pablo. Only this 4% of the reviews, of the comments, are related with COVID. The 90s, yeah? Thank God. And we can find most of them are quite positive, which is also a good sign. One of the reviews is appearing in here. This was a couple that they never been in the wine tourism. They never went to a winery, so they decided, okay, we can get out home. Let's do something local, and they decided to visit a winery, and they received the most valuable experience they never had. So the final sentence is, okay, I love it and I will repeat. So this is what we can obtain by analyzing all the online reputation, by analyzing any of the comments that we can obtain from the clients. And for that, you can see you can see the positive comments that has been received for the wine tourism. Excellent visit, great vineyard, the wines, the tasting. I would recommend it to my friends, to my colleagues, to my family, to the sector. And just to finish, how do we understand the smart data? How can be used for the wine tourism destinations? As we are an innovative company that works with the tourism intelligence, we like to offer the possibility to interact with these control panels, with the different dashboards that you can aggregate information depending different topics, the directory, the indicators, the sustainability indicators as well, all the information that can be obtained from the websites, all the social media of the vineyards, the online reputation, any of the subjects that quite be interesting for the wine routes, for the wine capitals, for the destination management organizations. And we can also use it, and we can also present it for different levels of needs. We can generate the KPIs for management. We can generate more detailed information and dashboard for the technicians, or we can also generate this open data to be public for the wine tourism. So this is a bit of the result.
Okay.
That why is so important the data, and salute, and more data. We need data. We need to collect the data, and we need to extract, which is the important information we have from there.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
And I gave you some time to answer the question that it was provoking the panel. Can you, some of you can tell what's the cost of data per person, per each visitor that we receive? Briefly.
Yeah, I mean, this is not really the kind of information that we're interested in. I mean, as an international organization, we are more into like, we look at things from a policy-making point of view. So, but the aim of the collaboration that we could have with the UNWTO is to provide data that then can be analyzed, and from that point on, we will leave to analysts and researchers the task of, for example, estimating demand elasticity of wine tourism, or measuring the cost of having tourists. So what we are aiming to is providing a methodological framework to have global data that then can be free and accessible to all the researchers and analysts that are interested. But
so that's a good news. It's free.
Yeah.
So for sure, it's free, and of course, each one then can use that data and upgrade it and scale up to another level of complexity.
Yeah, then I mean,
that's on each one's.
We mentioned the elasticity of demand, but there are like a number of topics that are very interesting and that can be measured. We can talk about sustainability. We can talk about the economic impact of wine tourism. We can measure the success of wine tourism. So, what are the characteristics that make wine tourism successful in a region? I mean, but again, our main aim is to provide data. Then
a report that everyone can accede, of course.
Then we would leave the analysis to
which one. Any other question? No. Time was burned, and in any case, we are able to answer anyone that might have some other issues to talk about. And so I'm closing this panel only to thank and leave a message of motivation for everyone to work together, and thanks to OIV with this proposal. This work shall leave behind the current fragmented information that we have, an open space to construct a common path of data management, allowing to add value to the services provided and increase satisfaction. demand, and of course, finally, better offer. And this circle way of that we all want can start with simple but ambitious steps, but being careful not to spoil it all. Cheers, and thanks again for your attention. We keep in touch in the wine world. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much to all the speakers. And it seems that we still have much to work on this area, and we need to collaborate more for better management in this business. Dear all, as we draw to the close of this 5th UNWTO Global Conference on Wine Tourism, it's time to look into what we've learned during this amazing meeting. To share the key takeaways of these 2 days, please welcome on stage the Chief of Tourism Marketing Intelligence, WNTO, my dear friend, Sandra Carvalho.
Thank you very much. Obrigada, Paulo. Muito obrigada a todos. Thank you, everyone. To the room here in Monsaraz, in the heart of Alentejo in Portugal, and also very good morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you're following us online. I will just like to sum up some of the ideas that have been discussed here today. I call it our homework from here to the next event. So we have 1 year ahead of us to work in some of those topics. Some are for UNWTO and partners to advance, others for the countries, others for the private sector. But for us, it's just important to leave a background of where we should be heading. I want also, before I do so, to thank Portugal, obviously, the Secretary of State, all the team at Turismo de Portugal, who've been amazing. Also, obviously, the mayor and the team in Reguengos de Monsaraz, and all the team here in the background that has made this possible. I also want to thank the speakers, because we were challenging them to be here physically, and this, I think, made a huge contribution, so thank you for coming. Those are challenging times, and it's the moment for us to be present. And I want to share as well that we had over 1,000 people that viewed us already in YouTube and in the platform. So I think also COVID has brought that opportunity to us to be in places and with people that cannot be with us. So without any further delay, I will just like to share key points on 7 areas that we've discussed over this 2 days. And the first one is about policy. We talked first with the representatives of Portugal, Greece, France, and Georgia to try to see where should we be heading in terms of policy. And also with the online survey, it was very clear that one of the most important points is to actually have a national wine tourism strategy that can bring everyone together, public, private sector, public sector at local level and national level, but also the other actors of the tourism ecosystem, which generally might not be around the wine tourism world. The second one is to ensure the coordination of tourism policy with relevant other policies. Rural development, a key essential area, education, agriculture, we can never forget we are talking about agriculture, and this is a key element. The third point, to support small and medium enterprises to improve their product, their access to the market, but also their quality. We have heard about standards, quality seals, and this is very important in today's world. The fourth one, to promote skills and talent. And here we talked about attraction and retention of talent. And this is very important. Sometimes it's not only, and more, it's not only about payment, it's salaries, it's about quality of life for young people to work, and also that they feel they're part of something. And the fifth one, to invest in infrastructure, particularly in terms of accessibility, because we are talking about rural areas that are often in remote access areas, and that is one of the most important obstacles. The second area that we've looked at has to do with the impact of COVID, what was, but also what is going to be after. We saw that for wine tourism, that's been actually an opportunity, because people who were not looking at wine tourism discovered wine tourism, because it's an open air space. It allows for smaller groups. You can be with your family. You can be in a safe event with a smaller group of known people. But also it opened new markets to many destinations. Domestic market, which for many were not probably the most important, but for others it's a challenge, because obviously others who have most international market, they have the highest impact. Also, we've talked about one new trend that came with the need of COVID, which is previous booking, which has, as the panel commented, proved to be a very effective tool for better planning of the visit, but also to provide a better experience, because you can actually also then keep in touch with the client. And we spoke that online wine activities, which have boomed during the pandemic, although there's nothing like a glass of wine at the destination, will probably stay and should be a complement to the other activities. We also spoke about innovation. And I wanted to start the conclusions of innovation with storytelling, because we often think about the technology, which is obviously very important, but I think we need to innovate more in how we tell the story, and that came out very strongly in the panels. Actually, I think it was something that was common to all the panels independently of the topic that was discussed. So how can we tell the story in a different way? The second was about data. How do we use data? And most importantly, how do we have the online tools for the acquisition and the retention of clients? And I would like to say retention, retention, retention. I was having this discussion with Paul before. We often spend a lot of effort in attraction, but we forget the effort on the retention. The third one is about to use technology to engage visitors on site, and for example, with the issue of languages, which obviously you cannot have guides that can speak all the languages, but today technology allows you to have other languages with applications, and that can be something that destinations can work together to provide to the wineries as well. And one important point that I think also a different view of innovation, which is sustainability is also innovating, and particularly in these days for consumers, that can be seen as a very positive factor. And the final one, how can we innovate in partnerships? Partnerships with people from outside the sector that we generally look very inwards. So I think that also an opportunity to think about different partnerships, and that came out in the discussions. The fourth point we went through is obviously the issue of sustainability that has to be at the core of wine tourism, has to be at the core of tourism development. And I liked very much what one of the panelists says is, I take decisions which are good for the future. So I think this is really the spirit. Whatever decisions you take independently of the area, this is what sustainability is about. We also discussed about the importance of cultural sustainability, to use the sense of the place and authenticity, and how if you do have a sustainable winery, then you will have sustainable wine tourism. So there is a huge commitment that the wineries are doing, and this is the key element to start a sustainable wine tourism. And finally, we talked about social sustainability, which also a key element. How do we engage the communities? How we make them part of this development? How do we provide opportunities for jobs? The fifth point we discussed was about governance, and I think this is very much linked with the policy point we talked about in the first panel, the importance of public and private sector cooperation, but that we need mechanisms to enhance them. This does not happen out of goodwill. The importance of public sector coordination, national, regional, and local level, and the importance of building that national plan that we began to talk about with the engagement of private sector and local destinations. It was also clear the importance of building management organizations, wine tourism management at local level and national level that do have a governance structure, and to work in network to learn more from each other. Finally, we talked about this morning about wine pairing with food, And although I think this is one of the most obvious relationships, it's probably one where we still have a lot of work to do. We talked about enhancing the value chain of wine tourism. How can we add value to the wine tourism experience through gastronomy, but also to value the local products, because this is what consumers are looking for. Again, here we need to be more innovative in the partnerships, to use as much as possible. Also, one of the interesting points of the discussion this morning was about local staff, because they know the region, they can communicate much better that storytelling. And the last point is about bringing wine tourism to the territory. The wineries are important, but outside the wineries, there has to be their experience, and we need to bring more gastronomy into the wineries. Final point, the data panel that we just finished. I think there was a clear commitment, both from World Tourism Organization and OIV, to work with the creation of a working group on the development of common indicators to measure and hopefully be able to benchmark wine tourism destinations, to create a common statistical architecture and framework, to promote the use of big data, and we saw some examples here of social listening, and to develop the knowledge of the relationship between wine tourism and other sectors that was mentioned by Portugal, especially the relationship with wine exports that seems to be very clear. And finally, to enhance national and international coordination, because without that, we can never advance the knowledge of wine tourism. With that said, it's been a pleasure to share this 2 days with you. We have a lot of work to do from our side at UNWTO. This is part of our agenda, also with training and capacity building for the destinations in wine tourism for the next year. And again, thank you very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day exploring Alentejo wineries. Paulo, back to you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. What an amazing job you did. It's not easy to wrap up. It's not easy to wrap up all this info, but wonderful job, Sandra. Thank you. So, against my will, I must say, because I'm having a great time being your MC, I do have to admit that the end is near, but before the final curtain, I need to thank to all our speakers, participants on site and online for making this event possible. I believe that all of you can take back home great memories from Monserrate and its people. And it's time to start our closing ceremony. It is my pleasure to invite on stage for final words from our hosts. Again, let's begin with my dear friend José Calixto, Mayor of Reguengos de Monserrate. Please.
Muito bom dia a todos. Senhor Secretário-Geral da Organização Mundial de Turismo,
Secretary General of Secretary of State Rita Marques, Minister of Tourism of Italy Massimo Garavaglia, Vice Minister of Tourism of Greece, from Georgia, Luís Araújo, President of Portugal Tourism, President Vitor Silva, President of Tourism do Alentejo. Dear Congressmen, dear guests, a special word for some of the inhabitants of Monserrate that are with us in this closing ceremony. Thank you for your welcome in our village. I'll start with a work in this final moment of the conference, thanking all that are here and that participators, speakers and moderators that traveled to Portugal from other countries, that have come from other points of the country, and all of those that have believed and have accepted the challenge of organizing this fifth conference of WTO. A word to the Portuguese government for the trust and the strength that they have embraced our project through the Secretary General of Tourism, Agência de Promoção Externa Alentejo and Ribatejo. Thank also to the company that have leading, João Paulo Oliveira, that organized this event, Guarda Nacional Republicana for the magnificent work, the bombeiros voluntários, firefighters of Monserrat, all the team of Reguengos Monserrat that have participated with ONT in Portugal tourism, in this organization of this event, to our producers that have welcomed us and have enabled us their good wines that produced for years, all the entities and the institutions involved in this event. And also a word to the people from Montserrat that have welcomed us in this days of work. Thanks to your work, all these entities were present in this conference. Through the 248 have participated in this organization under the restrictions that we are obliged to comply. Other numbers that I like to say, we had 171 Portuguese people, 77 foreigners, 34 speakers, 52 national and international media have seen, 640 people have seen the conference. It was an honor to have the confidence of the Portuguese government and UNWTO to assume the leadership of the 5th Eno-Tourism Conference. As you could see along the last days, the territory of Monserrat, Reguengos Monserrat, is occupied with olive trees, cereals, but especially wine. The production of wine is the economic driver of this region. The Alentejo region is responsible for 50% of the table wines produced in Portugal. The production of wine is made in this council through 11 producers that produce more than 20 million liters of high-quality wine every year. And the perspective of value added that has put us at the level of great prizes, international great prizes that our wines have obtained. Here we can see this afternoon we'll be able to find high quality eno-tourisms that has enabled us more and more have average stays is characterized as the tranquility and the peaceful, the quality wines, the friendliness and hospitality of our people that receive with the tradition of those who sing Alentejo in just one voice, but also the history of the castle of Monserrat and the Alqueva Lake, and less recently in the period that we have fought for this lake, for the chant, the gastronomy, and with all of this that we wanted to give you the knowledge and to feel, and we are very grateful for your coming here. The interiority characterizes the territory where we are, and the subject approached by the conference is one of the topics of the national and international policies. I would say here is thanking OMT, the document that we have listened from Carla Carvão is a very important document that has addressed the public governance policies, the situation of COVID, the innovation, sustainability, and the gastronomy. And this collided for the positive way with this region that has based the sustainability and the different way of making things here. And I was very happy to see the conclusions of this conference to point to see that the country is going on the right path. That has to do with the sustainability that we have to be concerned about. And this is what has been happening with Alentejo. I think that the holding of this conference enabled the Portuguese eno-tourism has reached a wide public, making it evident as the quality as an ecotourism destination. I hope that your passage through this corner of the world is in your memory and will be there for a long time. Thank you very much and see you soon.
I call now Vítor Silva, President of Turismo do Alentejo. Please, let's have a word. Be careful, you don't need to fall. We need you to speak.
Good morning to everybody. Allow me not to make the mistake to forget some persons. All are important here, of course, since the minister until the journalists and the people who want to share with us these days. Allow me to greet everybody in the person of the mayor of Reguengos de Monsaraz, who hosted this 5th conference of UNWTO in these days. Well, we know that for several years we know that the 5th conference should be here, and as that I have to greet, to thanks the UNWTO in the presence of Zurab Pasha, my friend Zurab. My friend Zurab, I have to learn some Georgian sometime. I have to thank you to choose and to make confidence in Portugal, in Alentejo, and in Reguengos de Monsaraz to host this 5th conference. You know that this conference should be realized last year, but with such a problem it was impossible. And this year it was very difficult to put this conference in the way that we should realize it. And it was important because for several times, for almost 2 years, we cannot be together to share our opinions, our experience, our ideas about the present and about the future. So I think one of the 8th conclusion of this conference, we present 7, is that we are in business again. This is an important conclusion. We are in business again. And nobody, no virus could stop us again. Okay. And second, I have to greet my government, Turismo Portugal, and our Secretary of State, because they made confidence also in our capacity here in Alentejo to bring this 5th conference to this place. And I think everybody who was here have the conclusion that it was a very good choice to choose the Alentejo and the Monsaraz for this. In third place, I have to thank the municipality in the presence of my friend José Calixto, and we have lots of fights in the tourism business together. It's already a long way that we have passed in this progress. We have seen the change that occurs in Alentejo and in these regions, an enormous change for better, and we're gonna continue this fight. So the municipality of Reguengos, as always, I have to thank you, to thank the realization of this conference. And normally, José Calixto have not forgotten, but normally we forgot, we talk about the institutions, but we forget that institutions are made for peoples. The people who are in the door taking our temperature, saying you have to use a mask, please wash your hands, the people who take care of the toilets, the people who make the security from here, the people who gave us the water that we drink, the food that we eat. But for me, it is so important. These people, as myself, as Zurab, forgive me to tell this, as a minister, the importance of the people, we have all the same importance. There are no people more important than the others. Are people that are chosen by his qualities because the others have confidence in them to, now you are the ruler, you are the dirigent for this, you are the president. No, but everybody have the same importance. That is my opinion. I don't accept others, I have to tell you. So, this is the end of our conference, but this is not the end of this way that we are putting in to got up the ecotourism and realize the importance that they have to the tourism in general and the sustainability too. For us, is not the beginning, not the end. Is one step in the middle of the process that we are building, in the tourism and in making ecotourism here in Portugal. I think our Secretary of State can speak better than me about that, and making the ecotourism in Portugal a reference all around the world. So, my friends, thank you for coming. We'll see you next year, not in Jerusalem, as Jews used to say, but in Italy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vitor Silva. So now, let's receive on this stage our Secretary of State for Tourism in Portugal, Rita Marques.
Well, good morning, everyone. My pleasure to be here again with you. I have to thank again all the ones that have already been mentioned. Dear José Calixto, thank you so much for hosting this incredible event. You mentioned we had so many challenges to be here today, but fortunately we managed with this wonderful team. So thank you again for hosting this event today. Dear Zurab, my pleasure again to meet you, my good friend. You always please count with us, please count with Portugal. We will be available always available to collaborate with UNWTO in wine, in innovation. You mentioned, just ask for us and we'll be there for you. Thank you so much. And of course, this greetings is extensible to your excellent team, Alessandra, Sandra, so many of you that are now good friends of Portugal. Thank you so much. I would like very much to greet Italy, Greece, Georgia, dear colleagues. You represent your governments, and I'm so proud that you are here with us today, especially because we do have so many things in common. So, of course, we are different. Each one of us has their own responsibilities. We have different backgrounds, different countries to protect, to nurture, to care about. But in fact, tourism is about diversity, but it's also about things that we have in common. So thank you so much for coming. I learned so much with you, and I hope we continue to work together in the future. Turismo de Portugal, dear Luís, we do have representatives of so many regions. We have Açores, we have Alentejo, of course, Vitor, that has been with us. I would like very much to mention Ceia da Silva is not with us, but he was an important piece of the puzzle that had the chance to negotiate in the very beginning this event to Portugal, and so many others that I cannot mention. But again, Turismo de Portugal, Turismo de Alentejo, thank you so much for your support. And I would like very much a round of applause to those that are behind the curtains, because they are the ones that deserve. Translators, media, media partners, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. These guys were the one that worked hard, 24 hours for us to be here. A quick message, we launched, I already mentioned that we launched this last year, in fact, a campaign, a specific campaign about wine. Wine pairs with diversity, wine pairs with adventure, with nature. But you know what? Wine pairs with ambition, wine pairs with vision, wine pairs with us. And all of us have their drivers, their motivations, but in fact wine has this magic strength that pairs with us. We drink a glass of wine to greet, to celebrate, sometimes to cry a little bit on the shoulders of one another. So wine has this capacity, as the tourism has the capacity to unite people, to unite communities, to unite continents, to unite regions, to unite us. And so this is my message to you. Portugal is very proud to host this event, but is most eager to continue to work with you in order to celebrate more tourism across the world. We didn't celebrate so much during last years or the last 18 months, and we have to celebrate more. In order to achieve that, wine can bring us this specific magic, this very special wisdom to celebrate more. And this is basically my message to you. Let's celebrate more, let's discover more about the world, always with a glass of good wine. And Sophia was pointing out a good phrase that we saw in the slides. It was one of the slides in the last panel about data. Wineries are like museums, and a good wine is like a good secret that has to be experienced and tasted. So let's do this together. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in Italy next year with good wine joining us for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary of State. If you allow me, I would add one more pairing. Wine pairs with happiness. Always. Always. I agree. Okay. Thank you. So finally, Zurab Palolikashvili, my friend, I almost feel like a Portuguese. Let's hear the last words in this closing ceremony, please.
Thank you. Bon dia, dear friends. First of all, I want to express on behalf of all of us our condolences with the big loss to Portuguese nation of ex-president Jorge Sampaio. Our condolences to his family and to all Portuguese nation. To sum up these 2 days conference, I think Sandra, she made quite clear resume what we were talking about these 2 days. I want to thank all of you to attend this conference. I think all of us, we broke the ice, which means that we finally meet each other. We had excellent 2 days. We will never forget 2 words, which is Alentejo and Montserrat. It's a big surprise for all of us, I think, and we will try to back again to visit this fantastic region, this fantastic city. We worked a lot and we could not have a chance to see the beauty of the Alentejo region, which is quite interesting. And thank you, dear Mayor, to be with us, to hosting us these unbelievable days and unforgettable event. So as we saw, we signed, and we have a lot of things to do in the future in many different aspects. The Wine Tourism Conference is becoming more important. Why? Because first of all, it's written here, it's a driver for rural development, and we are focused totally on rural tourism development, where we see a lot of possibilities, and next years we all will work, and we see this demand from the member states. It's not our idea. We saw that people starting after COVID period traveling domestically inside, they prefer to go and discover new places and destinations in their countries. So this is opportunity for all, and that's why we want to use these hard and weird times and to support rural development, as we mentioned yesterday, and to support people who are working and who can work and who can have income in that field. Of course, the most and the main focus for all of us will be on education. We need to train people. We have to prepare people to be prepared to receive the tourists. And I think we have very challenging, very interesting, very patient activities and jobs in the rural field. And again, Portugal is an excellent example how to do it and how to make it real. Thank you, dear Rita, for your hospitality, for your support. As always, you do. And I think we have many things to do together. It's a pleasure to have minister from Italy. This is first time, I think, in Alentejo you have minister from Italy. And congratulations on all deputy ministers, ambassadors, friends, colleagues, all experts from whom we learned a lot in these days. We see each other and all people, and I didn't know that more than 200 or 300 or 400 people were connected from outside, because I received some WhatsApps and comments. Next year we will not allow them to connect. They have to come to Piemonte. We have President of Piemonte with us and a big delegation. Thank you to be with us. And let's continue. I think we have many things to do together. Alone we can't do. Thank you, Sandra, your excellent team, Alessandra, to make such nice and such beautiful all staff. You are all our friends, new friends. My new friend Joe. This conference is about not only about wine connecting people, and this conference, during this conference you can discover new friends and new contacts, new ideas, new businesses. Dear Luis, thank you. Turismo de Portugal is always a strong partner, a strong entity to support our events and our activities. And last, I would say, I know that I can't, but I will. I want to wish our dear Mayor, José, good luck for the next elections. We are very sad that this is the last international event in Alentejo under your leadership, but we will be next to you. We will do many interesting things and projects in Évora. And with all respect to our other candidates, I want to wish you good luck and presentially congratulate you very soon. The new success will count always on us. Many thanks, dear guests, dear friends, and see you next year in fantastic Italy. And we will continue our talks, our works, our friendship, and of course, if there is no good wine, there is no good trip. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, this journey is far from over. As you know, next year will take us to a breathtaking wine tourism destination, obviously, Italy. Let's see.
What's the secret to living well? Choose a cult, archaic and genuine, but also refined. Descend into secret cathedrals. Be enchanted by effervescent souls and be seduced by their ritual dances. Immerse yourself. Discover hidden treasures under the branches of poplar and hazelnut trees. Hold it. And then go up again. Lose yourself in a labyrinth of scents. Pursue sunny paths and be driven towards the unexpected. Surrounded by a precious world heritage. Go higher until the void under your feet changes your perspective. Touch, smell, taste. Push yourself one hill further. Surrender to the taste of another small sin. And when you realise that the excitement is gone, then come back to this sea of hills and to the hollowed faces of those who shaped them. Come back. And the air, wine, food, culture, history, people, and all that moves and grows here will reveal our secret. To feel, experience, and love the art of buon vivere.
Italy, here we go. And to present us the host of the 6th UNWTO Global Conference on Wine Tourism 2022 in the city of Alba, Piemonte. Please join me. Let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Alberto Cirio, President of Regione Piemonte.
Buongiorno a tutti. Caro Zurab, cara Alessandra, dear Sandra, first of all I want to thank you and all of you because this is a great opportunity for my country, to promote my country, to promote my region. I am the governor of Piemonte region and the city of Alba, Langhe, Roero, Monferrato Hills will host the next global conference on wine tourism. And Piemonte, my region, is a region of 4.5 million of inhabitants in the northwest of Italy. To quote the words of that one of the former New York governors told me many years ago, we are in that part of Italy between Venice and Monte Carlo. This is the place of Piemonte, this is the place of Alba. Also, Alba is the capital town of Langhe, Monferrato, Roero Hills. This area is the area where we made the most renowned brands such as Ferrero Nutella, the hazelnuts that you saw on the video, and of extraordinary food products such as the white truffle from Alba. But Piedmont is also the place where the car was born. You remember Fiat 500, Fiat 500. The name Piemonte means at the foot of the mountains. Indicates the strong bond with the Alps. And this is the reason because my region and Turin hosted in the 2006 the Olympic Winter Games. Not only skiing, but all kinds of sports belong to Piedmont's DNA. We have recently hosted the start of the Giro d'Italia. The Giro d'Italia is the bicycle race of Italy. And in Turin, in our capital town, will soon be the stage of tennis ATP finals in this month of November. The capital town of my region is Turin, but Turin was the first capital town of Italy. And this is the reason because I want to thank my Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Tourism of Italy, Mr. Garavaglia, and I want to thank you for your precious support to this project. In Piedmont, in Torino, we have also important museums, such as the National Museum of Cinema, but also the Egyptian Museum. The Egyptian Museum in Torino is the largest in the world after the one in Cairo. However, Piemonte, and here we touch one of the reasons why we are here today in Portugal, is also the place where the slow food global movement was born, and is the place where we have one of the most popular wines of our country. In Piemonte, wine is first of all human heritage. The vineyards landscapes of Langhe Roero and Monferrato areas were declared UNESCO World Heritage in 2014. We can't wait to welcome you in these hills, whose surfaces have been combed out into vineyards by human hands. Wine in Piemonte is a place. You know Barolo wine, you know Barbaresco wine, you know Asti wine. These are the names of well-renowned wines, but also of real places, real villages, cities rich in history that you can visit and that will surprise you with their tradition and beauty. Wine in Piemonte is an experience to enjoy. Sitting at the table of one of our typical restaurants and pair it with the dishes of Piedmont tradition, or taste a glass directly at one of the cellars of our historical wineries, or even experience the grape harvest while among rows of vines. Wine in Piemonte is events. I'm thinking, for example, about events that attract thousands of visitors from all over the world, such Salone del Gusto, such Terra Madre, or the International White Truffle Fair in Alba. In Alba, in Langhe Hills, you can also find the Wine Museum, designed by François Confinot, one of the most important museum architects in the world. And not too far from this museum, you can find the unique in the world Corkscrew Museum. Wine is also culture, is also poetry. A well-grown vineyard is like an healthy body, a living body with its own breath and sweet. These are the words of Cesare Pavese. Cesare Pavese is one of the most important Italian authors. He was born among those hills that were once poor and that now, thanks to the work of our farmers and many enlightened land entrepreneurs, have become rich, well-known, and renowned all over in the globe. Piemonte is also wine in the city, truly, inside in the city. In Turin, in the heart of one of the wonderful royal residences of the Savoy family, Villa della Regina is the name, you will find one of the rare urban vineyards that exist in Europe, where a very appreciated Freisa di Chieri wine is produced. Wine is architecture. Spumante in Piemonte was born inside the so-called underground cathedrals, kilometers of historic cellars in the heart of the town of Canelli in Monferrato area, which have been declared UNESCO World Heritage. Or let's think about Infernot. Infernot is an old cellar which had been excavated by the hand in the rock, or Balmetti, real natural refrigerators excavated in the mountains of the area of Borgo Franco di Ivrea and cooled by the air coming directly from the inside of the mountain. Wine in Piemonte is also economy. Almost 45,000 hectares of vineyards and 49 wines among DOC and DOCG. It's a sector that involves 18,000 wineries, 280 industrial businesses, and 54 cooperative cellars. More than 2.2 million hectoliters of wine are produced every year in Piemonte, 60% of which are exported, for a total export value about 1 billion euros. Finally, every year in the hills of wine and flavors in Piemonte are visited by 50,000, 550,000, how much is in English? 550,000 is correct, tourists coming from all over the world, with a total of 1.6 million overnight stays. Wine tourism is constantly growing, and also our food tradition. Now in Piemonte, we have 46 starred chefs and about 24,000 active restaurant owners. Therefore, as I say goodbye, I hope we will see each other again in Piemonte, in Italy, of course, where we can enjoy together a good wine, but also maybe over a plate of tajarin, a plate of pasta with Alba white truffle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sirio. Mr. Sirio, I only need 2 hours to get my luggage, then I go with you, right? But after this invitation, we could not end this ceremony without the words of the Minister of Tourism of Italy. Please come to this stage, Mr. Massimo Garavaglia.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Because my English is not so good, I prefer to speak in Italian, and Alessandra translate for me. Thank you to Friend Zurab, Secretary of State Rita, Mr. Mayor, authorities. Why wine tourism? Perché il turismo del vino? Perché l'enoturismo è un driver di sviluppo per i territori rurali. Partiamo da qua.
Wine tourism is a key driver for the development of rural territories. Good morning, everyone.
Allora, la prima cosa sono i dati. Noi abbiamo bisogno di studiare l'enoturismo partendo dai dati. Ci servono i dati per capire il fenomeno e quindi iniziamo da qua. Se tu non hai i dati, non hai degli obiettivi che misuri, non vai da nessuna parte.
So the key thing to start with for wine tourism is data. We need data. We need data that works and that tells, because without the right data, you cannot have the right KPIs to measure. Are you talking with Santa by any chance?
No. Prima abbiamo sentito il Piemonte. Il Piemonte è una regione italiana con questi numeri. Noi abbiamo la necessità di avere un piano dell'enogastronomia italiana perché ce l'ha il Guatemala, ce l'ha il Camerun e l'Italia non ha ancora un piano dell'enogastronomia e iniziamo a lavorare proprio quest'anno su questo.
And of course we've heard the numbers and the analysis given by Region Piedmont, but Region Piedmont is just one of the 20 regions of Italy. And so, for example, in a country like Italy, we need a wine and gastronomy plan, strategic plan, because many other countries in the world have it, and weirdly enough, in Italy, we don't have it yet, so we're going to start working immediately on it.
E quindi, perché puntare sull'enoturismo? Turismo del vino che è cresciuto tantissimo negli ultimi anni, è una leva di sviluppo locale, rurale, promuove stili di vita salutari e a basso impatto ambientale e dà nuove opportunità di lavoro soprattutto a giovani e donne e destagionalizza.
Why wine tourism? Why is wine tourism so important beyond all, and put together with the things that were already said throughout this workshop, is because wine tourism, yes, creates development for rural areas, but mostly promotes...
Tre segnali su cui lavorare. Primo, ci sarà sempre più turismo all'aria aperta. Secondo, la digitalizzazione ha avuto un salto irreversibile. E terzo, la sostenibilità. Abbiamo più bisogno di sostenibilità ambientale e anche sostenibilità sociale, quindi collaborazione.
Yes, we're definitely, we want to turn the page from the pandemic, but we cannot forget the three main lessons that we learned from the pandemic. First of all, we noticed that tourism outside in open air is definitely growing a lot. Then digitalization has done a huge jump compared to before, not only because we've been using digital tools, but definitely because it's taken it to a different level. And the third thing, we cannot do without sustainability. Obviously, sustainability at an environmental level, but mostly at a social level.
Quindi nuovi target, sono nati, nasceranno nuovi target, da una crisi la reazione forte del mercato, degli operatori, e quindi sempre più la popolazione locale si rivolge sulle aree limitrofe e non solo. Il turista va al lago, va nelle cantine, va al mare, va nelle cantine, va in montagna, va nelle cantine.
And the one thing that is very clear, there's new targets that are emerging that we definitely are never going to change. That's what we think, is the fact that domestic tourism has increased a lot, and so now what we're seeing is people going to the nearby territories, going to the lake and then to visit the cellars, or going to a wine producer, going to the sea and going to visit the cellars, going to the mountains and going to visit the cellars.
E poi nascono tanti piccoli nuovi eventi e dopo lavoro si va in una cantina, wine club, eccetera.
New events as well are starting to arise. Exactly, cellars are becoming one of the after work possibilities or the weekend possibilities.
E quindi quali sono i trend per il futuro? E chiudiamo. Unicità e emozione. Prima abbiamo visto l'emozione del Piemonte, qui abbiamo vissuto l'emozione del Portogallo.
So the main trends for the future are definitely uniqueness and emotions. We've seen the video of Piemonte, but we are living the emotions of Portugal.
Well done. See you next year in Alba, Piemonte, Italy. Bye bye.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Please, I kindly ask you to stay on stage because now we'll be having an official photo. I also invite all the other hosts, José Calixto, the Mayor of Reguengos Maçarás, also Vítor Silva, the President of Tourism Alentejo, Rita Marques, Secretary of State of Tourism Portugal, and obviously our Secretary General, Zurab Pololikashvili. Please have a place here as an official photo for this moment. Okay. I think that the Secretary General has something to offer to the participants here. It's a small gift, but it's a similar one. What is it?
It's the book. It's the book that we gave to Rita. We gave as well a copy for him.
So after the Alentejo wine and the tubras, for those who know, next year we'll be having some Barolo and white truffle, which is also very interesting for those who can join. Oh, there's more surprises. There's more surprises. That's what happens in Portugal. There's always something. I do believe by the case that is wine. I don't know why. It's my guess. Piotr Cesare. So now you have the wine, you have the book, but we're missing the Alba truffles. Where are the Alba truffles?
We have to wait for the season.
Yeah, it's not a season, but you can find it.
Yes.
Okay, this is the official photo. Thank you very much. Take your seats, please. Okay. Thank you very much. Please have your seats because we're closing, and now it's time to say goodbye, right? We thank all of those who came to Monserrate, as well those following us online. Thanks to all the speakers for the great insights and for sharing their knowledge, their experiences. I hope you enjoyed this afternoon visit because you're going to some of the most emblematic wineries in Alentejo, please. There's always one more photo. I understand that. That's a farewell.
I'm so sorry.
That's a farewell. When you mix Portuguese with Italians, something happens.
Yes.
Always. Is that a Barolo wine?
It's a wine that Zurab doesn't like at all.
I cannot say that out loud. Can you... At least you have a bottle to drink tonight. So, thank you, UNWTO and Turismo Portugal, for your invitation to be our Master of Ceremonies. It was an honor to me to join this event. And see you next time, somewhere in between Portuguese food and wine. Thank you very much.
Portugal é uma marca. Uma marca no mundo do vinho, da gastronomia e do turismo. Portugal é uma marca feita de muitas marcas. É uma marca com história e inovação, com diversidade de paisagem e património, com identidade de terroir e territórios, assente no sorriso aberto de quem acolhe e de quem trabalha. Portugal é uma marca que conquista e seduz. Portugal é uma marca feita de aromas e cores, de complexidade, alegria e vozes plurais. Uma marca que vive em quem a trabalha e em quem a promove pelo mundo. Portugal é a marca que inspira o blend. O Porto é o seu palco. Afinal, é aqui que se vive a principal experiência do vinho em Portugal. 9 dias a sua duração para viver um roteiro que cruza vinho, gastronomia, música, arquitetura, artes performativas e design, que promove networking, debate e negócios e que junta quem se dedica a criar e a vender experiências, dando lugar a um encontro anual e a uma plataforma digital. Em fevereiro, seremos Blend. A nossa missão? Tornar Portugal no ponto de encontro do enoturismo mundial. A nossa vontade? Afirmar Portugal como o destino que se repete, porque há sempre mais um motivo para voltar. Blend Wine Tourism and Essência do Vinho Porto. Porto, 19 a 27 de fevereiro de 2022, em Portugal.
Do you ever gaze at the shape of a wave and at the shape of a grape? They're both waiting for us to shape them into something we love.